Greetings.
Hello, I'm VinzerFlinn, and welcome back to the Book of Flynn, where Rain and I were just trying to figure out a good opening. And she went with Nandor the Relentless, not Nandor de Laurentius. And as I've been telling Rain, I just discovered Matt Berry's Toast of London series, and it's one of the most uproariously funny things I've watched in a while. It's just, I highly recommend it if you like Laszlo from What We Do in the Shadows.
The only scene of this I've seen was wild at best, and I've watched about 30 seconds of it. So yeah, I'm going to back up that claim that the show is
it's madness.
right
I
out.
absolutely love it. But like, it's all the little things too, like, because Matt Berry's just such a distinctive voice. He's in tons of voice acting, but like, he'll respond to a little thing and he'll be like, "Oh, Toast, I'm telling you this," and he'll go, "Ah!" Like, he just just those Matt Berry sounds. Anyway, it's very funny.
I still can't get the headcanon out of my head that this is just another version of Jackie Daytona, and this is just Laszlo.
Honestly, it, aside from being out in the daytime thing, it would absolutely line up. It's just Laszlo all over.
Has he asked about the weekend?
It's about the one thing he hasn't said in it. He does all sorts of stuff like that. He'll be like, "He has tons of charisma," and it just sort of keep going, shit like that, right? It makes me laugh.
That's wonderful.
Anyway, enough about that. It's time to check in. What the hell's going on in Stardew Valley today?
I started a new game this time around, and I know I'm going to shock any Stardew fans out there. I'm going to go the JoJo Mart route. So essentially, I'm going to buy into the corporate dystopia instead of while I'm farming. So I'm going to go and save up for a JoJo Mart and close the community center and turn it into a warehouse.
You sure you didn't accidentally start a new Cyberpunk game? What the fuck is going on in Stardew Valley?
Season 2, Episode 19, The Zillo Beast Strikes Back. The most dangerous beast is the beast within.
I would argue the most dangerous beast is the one that's, 12 stories tall and ripping your ships to bits.
Which could also be the beast within.
It's within your house.
Prediction, one word, Dogzilla. Yay, I finally got one. They recapped the previous episode, calling the electro-proton bomb a calculated risk. The Zillo Beast, aka Dogzilla, is being transported to Coruscant so their armor can be studied for new armor for the clone troopers, which is oddly nice of Palpatine. As the galaxy's most dangerous beast touches down on the galaxy's most populous planet, what could go wrong?
I'm glad they at least made a point of saying that in the recap. They're not pretending to fool us that they're doing anything but introducing a giant monster to a populated city world.
Speaking of Coruscant, as a ship touches down on Coruscant, a dozen clone troopers move into position, weapons pointed up into the cargo bay of the ship. And a point that's echoed later, what do they think their weapons are going to do against this thing if it wakes up? They should be ready with tanks.
It's just to make them feel better, I guess. But yeah, it's going to be pretty ineffective.
There is another dropship hovering over them in the air, and Chancellor Palpatine is feeling lucky, and he's also watching the Zillo Beast roll out of the ship. The dropship lands, and Windu, Skywalker, and R2 join the Chancellor on the ground. The Chancellor's practically drooling at this creature while Windu is having flashbacks from his days in Jurassic Park, and he's telling Chancellor that this is a mistake.
I know it would be wildly out of character, but I'm a little sorry Mace Windu didn't at some point say, "Hold on to your butts."
Exactly. Or the Jedi version of that. I don't understand why the scientists couldn't go with the creature to the planet it was going to be released on, so that if it got away, it was at least not in the middle of a populous planet.
Yeah, this is all the Chancellor's idea. And I find he's not doing, even early on in this episode, he's not doing a good job of hiding his facial expressions. Like little of the Emperor's like Sidious expressions are leaking out onto Palpatine's face.
Yeah, I'm totally seeing a lot of Sid Vicious in this episode. I did not make this decision lightly. Sir, point of order, you made it on the spot. We saw it in real time. Don't pretend you slept on it. Don't pretend you walked away and at least pretended to think about it.
He's like, I want that.
Mine. Dr. Fish AI joins their group, and Windu all but threatens the doctor to take care of his new pet. As he walks away, he's super sus of Chancellor and the creature. He and Skywalker hop onto another dropship and head over to the Jedi Temple.
Is it just me, or does the pilots of the Lardies, the dropships, just always seem to know exactly where to go? The Jedi just get on and they just take off. It's like, I don't know. It's just a little thing. Bugs me.
Yep. There's no speaking. It's just text message.
I'd be the pilot up there going, where the fuck you want to go? I don't know where I'm going. Where?
Last time I asked, they cut my head off. Jedi Temple! Windu's filling Obi-Wan in, and Obi-Wan's like, Obi, what? He agrees with Windu, that bringing the Zillo beast back to Coruscant was a bad idea. Capital B, capital I. And they're going to try to get someone else to convince the Chancellor before it goes rampaging through Coruscant's Tokyo district. Dr. Fish AI is floating a ship around the creature who's now in the electric field of the same type of draining energy, I assume.
I guess so, yeah. It didn't look very comfortable.
Yeah. The Zillo beast seems groggy, but is awake. Its head's being propped up on, like, higher beams above so that it can be kind of sitting upright. A droid, who I'd term Beaker, walks up and attempts to rip a spike off the creature's neck. Another rounder, shorter droid, called Bunsen, injects an anesthetic into the neck so that they can continue to try to rip the spike off. But the Zillo is cranky, and when you get woken up by pain, you wake up cranky. The beast is within earshot, as we will find out. Dr. Fish AI reports that the scales are not only strong, but they're really light, so she wants to study it further to try to synthesize it. But the scales are really painful and difficult to remove. But Chancellor Palpatine is showing his General Mills colors, exactly what you said, by suggesting they just kill it.
Yeah.
Everyone actually protests, even his blue IC. He goes on to insult the creature's intelligence, but it's really clear. I don't know if it's clear to him, but it's real clear to everybody else that Dogzilla can understand every single word, which I do find interesting how it does that, considering it. I don't know if it's been around basic.
I don't know if it understands the words so much, but it's clearly intelligent and it's clearly able to discern the intent. Like it knows that, that it's not, it's a prisoner and they're going to exploit, but like it knows Palpatine, I always say Palpatine like it's a fork. Palpatine, but people probably heard, well, about 2 listeners that listen to us have probably heard he's saying it wrong. I know. Palpatine, he's behind this creature's pain and suffering, and the animal understands that, and like it fixes him with the fucking eye of hatred. So like this, whatever, whether it understands language or not, it's clearly intelligent and knows what's happening.
Either way, Palpatine is a forking dill hole.
I've never hated him more than this episode. I think just the way he's like, "I'll kill it."
Yeah. He makes a big speech about how every second they waste is a second more of this war that you created, sir.
Ugh, I fucking Putin vibes. We can stop the war anytime.
Yeah.
know?
He tells the doctor to use the fuel from the dog planet to weaken the beast in order for them to get what they need, and then basically is like, kill the beast or I'll kill you. He technically says, I'll replace you, but the vibes are there. It's like kind of like Skywalker saying, borrow.
Yep.
Dogzilla's listening to all of this, and you can tell he understood enough. At the Senate, Skywalker and R2 are walking/rolling up to Obi-Wan, who better not be hitting on Padme, because she's also there. And C-3PO! Yay! I guess if we get him, we don't get the Harry and Marvs, which I'd rather the Harry and Marvs.
I saw a photo just today of a behind the scenes of the old trilogy where Anthony D'Angelo they got a cigarette stuck in 3PO's mouth. And in terms of the trilogy, original trilogy, and indeed everything 3PO's been in would be so much better if he was chain smoking the entire time. You know, being all, oh my, and he's just puffing away in a Marlboro.
So much better. The droids start their usual bickering, and while Skywalker asks why Padme's there, as he thought he was just meeting Obi-Wan, I guess, Padme's like, I want to help convince the Chancellor to get Dogzilla off of Coruscant stat. And because it's not just for the people of Coruscant, because she's actually more concerned about what the people are going to do to Dogzilla. Rightfully so. She thinks that Skywalker will be useful in persuading the Chancellor, so he reluctantly agrees. Over at Palpatine's pad, the Chancellor isn't surprised that word's already getting around about the Zillo Beast being on Coruscant, and Padme pleads to the Chancellor that this is a democracy, so they should discuss this. I did not realize that the death part was already on the table at this point. I thought it was just of her opposing it being there at all.
Right.
But he brings it up. The Chancellor's Blue IC, who spoke out against this initially, suddenly is like, oh wells, you gotta do what you gotta do. And I noticed something about Blue IC in this moment. I don't think he's actually blue. His eyes are very distracting. I think he paints the blue on because those yellow marks look like little tanning goggles that you use.
I noticed that too. I was like, he's got some orange eyelids going there.
So I think that he paints himself blue.
Sure.
That's my new headcanon.
He's
He's actually yellow. He tries to blow Padme off, being like, don't you have something else to do? She's like, no, I don't have anything else. This is my only stuff for today.
He's like, Naboo's fine.
The Chancellor rationalizes him not talking to anyone about his decision outside of democracy, and then he deflects the attention to Skywalker, and he's like, well, what do you think? And Skywalker does his best Obi-Wan impression and completely sidesteps the answer with some Jedi mumbo-jumbo, being like, it's not my position to decide this, but I do see both of your points, and maybe an answer will present itself soon. And I'm like, all right, Yoda, calm down.
There were a couple quotes during these two scenes that really stuck out to me that I made note of, and one is Padme saying, it's what we're capable of that frightens me, as in people like us, not the dragon. And when Anakin says in wartime means some things must be kept from the people, Padme narrows her eyes at him. And that was like a very telling little thing between them where they clearly did not agree.
Yeah, I did have that earlier. I skipped that by accident. But yeah, Padme was annoyed AF. The Chancellor steps away and Padme continues to chew him out. But Skywalker's like, he might have had some good points. I had a hard time arguing with him. Back at the torture chamber, the Chancellor hollow calls into the doctor being like, is it ready yet? While Dogzilla is dropping all of the eaves. Dr. Fish AI has converted the fuel into a poisonous gas, but clearly doesn't want to go through with it. The Chancellor sees no other alternative.
This is some Nazi shit right here with the poisoning. I hate it.
Jedi, mind meld. Ask politely. You never know, be like, give us a scale and you can have your freedom. Boom.
There are Jedi that have different talents in different areas, and like I'd be like, find the one that's good with communicating with animal life, meld with it.
Damn it! Are we advocating for Jar Jar?
If Jar Jar could save this thing, then I'm okay.
Yeah, this would have been a good one for Jar Jar. If he mind melded with that like big creature under the sea, SpongeBob SquarePants, then maybe we could have. Apparently that song is very triggering to the cat. Sorry about that, Willow.
Willow just leaped into the shot there. Can you imagine if Jar Jar did meld with it, though? And he says, what does it say, Jar Jar? He says, say, you were saying big doo-doo.
Yeah. Bunsen is getting loaded up with all of the poisonous gas and approaches Dogzilla. Dr. Fish AI actually apologizes to the creature. They begin to administer the gas, and I say that with air quotes because this was like puffing somebody with a couple of spritzes of perfume. Like, I'm sorry. I thought they were going to gas the chamber. What is this?
He's like in his face like, ombre for men.
This is like Febreze commercial. What even? Okay. Dogzilla is officially over it and is like, all right, that's it. Breaks out of the cage. Doesn't make Dr. Fish AI sushi, just books it right past her, and they make it very obvious that they literally just let them and just go.
Yeah, didn't even take the time to just chomp her down. I was surprised by that.
Yep. It becomes a pattern, though. Outside the lab, clone troopers see the size of the dome giving away, and they're like, man, I don't want that thing out here. Anyways, it comes out and crushes them all. Cosmo echoes my earlier concern right before it pops out about how effective the rifles will be.
Did you notice he was stepping backwards as he was saying that?
Yep. We learned the trooper's name because another one tells him to shut up. The egg hatches and the baby is free. Dogzillo crawls. Dogzillo.
That's good. I like that. Dogzillo.
Dogzillo to the rescue. The beast crawls out of sight, and we see that Dr. Fish AI made it to the surface. And she can already see the smoke and all the debris and the destruction in Dogzilla's wake.
When it got loose, they actually sounded like an air raid siren, and that sound really invokes, a dangerous emergency of some kind. And they didn't even like change it from the real word. Just nope, air raid siren to make you fucking sweat.
This episode would have been solved by a white woman. Just saying, bigger the creature. Just need Padme. Just throw Padme into the middle of it. Tell everybody to walk away for 5 minutes. She'll have that thing eaten out of the palm of her hand. Back at Palpatine's pad. I hope the Chancellor's wearing his brown robes, because Dr. Fish AI holo calls in, and as she's about to explain what the incident is, it cuts to Padme and Skywalker hearing the same alarm as the Chancellor, and a quick shot of Dogzilla hunting through Coruscant. This creature's looking for something. I have a suspicion as to what. Dr. Fish AI is going to work on getting more gas. Get 4 jars instead of 3 this time. Skywalker lets Rex, he's like, I'm en route. No need, because over in Tokyo, 2 dropships are pew-pewing at Dogzilla, obviously to no avail, considering they brought it there to study its impenetrable
seriously.
defenses. He sees a jumbotron of the Chancellor and, sure enough, goes right for it, swatting away the 2 dropships like they're buzzy flies.
Now, do you think that the Zillo Beast recognizes Palpatine as not just the source of the trouble, but do you think it senses like dark side energy in him? Like, does the Zillo know what the Jedi have failed to notice so far? I was just wondering about that.
Ooh, that's a really, really good theory. I like it, because I think that he understands a lot more than he realizes. Like, he feels, maybe he can see the Force around the people.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because he is very... the creature is very choosy about who it kills. You notice that. It's like... It's not like they're not hurting anybody intentionally. It's kind of just hard not to step on ants sometimes. Like, they're that small to this creature.
Yeah, he wasn't just destroying everything he came across. He was clearly trying to make his way to something.
Exactly. Dogzilla definitely isn't copying Godzilla as they climb up a high-rise.
Hey, that was King Kong.
Oh, yes, of course.
I thought the same thing.
Reaches the top of the building and he sees a big dome in the distance. And this is why I think has a lot more intelligence than just kind of like primal instincts, because he has enough logic to figure out that, ooh, this big building must be the center of all of it. This is where I've got to go.
However, he knew it. He knew where he had to go.
Exactly. That, or the dark side is strong. And it's just like he just sees a big cloud forming over it. Decides to head in that direction, with Dogzilla is very intelligent to get this right, as we see a few moments later when Padme confirms that the Dogzilla is heading in the right direction, right this way. I'm 100% Team Dogzilla at this point. We see Dogzilla leap onto the Senate building, and the whole building, including Senator, what's his face again?
Bail Organa?
Yeah, Smits, there it is. Senator Smits,
Senator
he also
Smits.
feels the impact.
Yeah, a little Mon Mothma and Bail Organa, a quick cameo there.
Yeah. Skywalker reminds them, hey, you remember when we were all going to evacuate to the lower levels? And R2's like, oh, bleep, right, and just zooms off. Too late, there's a green glow behind them, and they turn to see the intelligent eye of the Dogzilla.
What? I like how they waited until that eye was filling up his entire window and it's like, well, let's evacuate.
Time to go. I don't know yet if it's this moment or the next moment where the Chancellor finally realizes that he underestimated the intelligence of this creature. I can't figure out where it is. I feel like he's like, wow, okay, wow, he found me. But I feel like it's in the next moment where he really realizes, oh, God, this guy's actually just after me specifically. Over in the dropship, Windu and Kenobi are on a holo call with Yoda, who's basically saying, hurry up! They're saying that they're almost to the loading dock to get the tanks, armed with the same energy, I'm presuming, that they knocked him out with the first time.
I think so.
The Chancellor leads them out of this emergency exit and onto a ship. He checks with Dr. Fish AI, who informs them that they have just enough gas now. 4 tins. C-3PO directs their attention to Dogzilla on a fast approach, who quickly captures the ship and looks inside his new little toy surprise. This is where I think the Chancellor figured it out. That it was very intelligent. Back over at the other landing pad, Windu prepares the tanks to fire, and Yoda warns them, no, he has the Chancellor, and he might have Skywalker and Padme, so just hold up a sec. Meanwhile, inside the ship, Dogzilla's trying to wonder how to get the wrapper of the prize open, and Skywalker has another one of his great ideas. Chancellor, like Obi-Wan, is getting a bad feeling as Skywalker proceeds to start cutting a hole in the side of the ship. Or the Chancellor just doesn't recognize what guilt feels like. Never mind. On the ground, a trooper reports that Skywalker is up to something, and they see him through the binoculars. Obi-Wan uses his disappointed dad voice as he explains that it's another improvised plan.
Kenobi didn't do shit in this episode. He just sort of showed up and complained a bit.
His usual roles then. Get ready to catch them, he says. And then Rex goes, I think it was Rex, a lot of the General's plans involve falling.
Yeah, he would know.
Yoda goes off to distract Dogzilla and to buy Skywalker more time in the dropship with another Twi'lek Jedi. Do we know who this is?
Yeah, that's Ayla Secura. She's
okay.
She's been in a bunch of. She was in live action in episodes 2 and 3. But yeah, she's just she's the Jedi who doesn't wear a robe clearly.
Yoda hops on his head. Oh, Yoda hops on the creature's head. I got confused by that sentence for a second. Just boing boing, and he's hopping around him. He kind of looks like a flea. The size of this compared to the Zillo beast, it's like a little flea bouncing around with like green light on it. In the prize ship, the Chancellor is very nervous and hopes that Skywalker knows what he's doing. R2 beeps up, and I think he said the same thing that Rex said on the ground, but with more swear words. How a lot of his plans involve falling. R2's translator, I just want it to be Mace Windu talking like normal Samuel L. Jackson.
What are you doing, motherfucker?
Yeah, exactly. The voices are different enough that they could get away with it. The front of the ship just comes right off. I guess that was his plan. Except he just left the Chancellor in the front half of the ship to fall?
He got a lot of faith in his Jedi buddies, I guess.
Skywalker and Padme are sliding down the hill. Annie uses the Force to help Padme hold on. R2, who is over everyone at the moment, manages to grab on with like a grappling magnet hook thing.
Yeah, he's got a lot of go-go gadget stuff. It felt like Anakin didn't really use the Force to get Padme. He just reached out. I'm like, why didn't he just sort of lift her with the Force and pull her away? But it seems like he didn't do that.
He has R2. Poor R2 has 3PO land on him. This is the second time that somebody is riding him, and it won't even be the last time in this episode. I tried to find a different way to say ride him, but I couldn't phrase it. Like, I was like, land on him, ride. I couldn't figure out a good way to say it.
Again, this would have been a better scene if 3PO had a cigarette in his mouth the whole time.
R2-D2 works too hard is what I learned about this episode. Dogzilla throws the back of the ship down and it explodes, and he starts to head towards the Chancellor. Meanwhile, Yoda and his other Jedi are still bouncing around on Dogzilla's back, kind of to distract him until the tanks come into position.
Yeah, they don't really do much, really.
No, they start using the same beam on Dogzilla as last time. Although this time, as the beam starts up, Dogzilla's still honing in on the Chancellor, and Skywalker orders R2 over. Cursing and swearing, he flies off towards the Chancellor, and again, R2 is flying while carrying someone, as he has to carry the Chancellor. And just as they get away, Dogzilla kills the trooper who was rescuing him.
You gotta wonder if R2 years later, because he never had a memory wipe, he's like, man, I could have killed that fucking Palpatine so many I could have just dropped him then and there and saved the whole galaxy.
Yeah. C-3PO plummets to the ground, but he's fine.
Have a cigarette.
And in more important news, Yoda and the other Jedi jump off the Zillo Beast. They're all retreating, and C-3PO has arms up and he's screaming. Chancellor orders the Doctor to use the gas bombs. I disassociate for the next 30 seconds. I couldn't remember what happened. I just hit skip until it was over. Essentially, the Force users just protected the group from the gas, but the next day, we obviously see that rest in peace, Dogzilla. Screw everybody in this episode that made this happen. F you all. I am mad. White girl, angry rage. Don't even care. You could have knitted it a sweater and it would have come home with you. You guys approached this all wrong. Should have let Padme lead this one. The mood seems gloomy the next day. Unless you're the Chancellor. He's practically peeing himself with joy. And he gives orders to the Doctor. They're not the orders of studying it anymore. They're orders to clone it. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, this was just a continuation of the last episode I found where, this fucking innocent dragon just gets completely victimized and then they kill it.
Yep. I really wanted the Chancellor to be eaten. I know it couldn't happen that way. I know continuity said he lived, but I really wanted him to be eaten. I was a little mad at Windu also because he was very quiet this episode. He should have been way more vocal and go full Qui-Gon on these guys. That's the issue with pomp and circumstance.
Joking about how funnier this series would be, the Gen X spin of 3PO smoking a cigarette the whole time. I think if there was a little more curse words in it would have been funnier. Like when they told Kenobi that they brought the dragon back here, I'd be like, why the fuck did they bring it back here? Just slipping an F-bomb once in a while in the right spot, and you got a whole other hilarious vibe. My big question in this episode was when the Zillo Beast had the ship and Anakin's cutting it free and everything, Palpatine must have been sweating that he might have to use his powers to save himself and reveal himself. But he did the same thing when he got quote unquote rescued in episode 3. It's like he has to go along with the crazy situation but not use any of his force powers. But I was wondering he had to have been sweating a little bit, I'm gonna have to do something to get out of this.
It didn't even occur to me that he has powers because they're so far removed. But I just see Chancellor Palpatine as a big dick anyways, so it's not much of a stretch for me. I just kind of forget about the powers because he usually uses more of his mind games and his intellect. Yeah. He's a chess player. He doesn't use brute force. He always has Darth Maul or Darth Vader for that stuff. He always has a henchman to do his dirty work, whether they think they're a henchman or not.
Super capable with force powers and even lightsaber fighting, as we saw in the third movie. But he's a master manipulator, so he's a puppet master for sure. But yeah, even if he was just a normal politician and not some secret Sith Lord, he'd still be a fucking complete asshole.
He's like Dolores Umbridge level of hatred for me.
Yeah, I hated him so bad in this one.
Yeah, this was a new low for me. Yeah. So rest in peace, Zillo, Lizzie, whoever you are. Sad.
Down with the Chancellor. Alright, time for the next stop on this Buffy ride. Season 2, Episode 19. I Only Have Eyes for You. Prediction. Angel does some more stalkery shit and potentially has someone's actual eyes in a container. I'm just gonna jump ahead here and say I was completely wrong on this one, but you know. Tonight we start with a slow dance night at the Bronze, and Buffy is brooding on the upper level wearing her golden pantaloons. I had to make note of the golden pantaloons. Alright, a guy, unfortunately named Ben, from school tries to chat her up and wants to know if Buffy will ask him to the Sadie Hawkins dance tomorrow night. I'm not sure it works like that, buddy, but nice try. She turns him down and says, sorry, I'm not seeing anyone, like, ever again. So Willow's here downstairs. I can only assume she's been doing shots or something. Buffy has been doing nothing but patrolling and sacking out lately, apparently. And Willow advised being a little more impulsive. Buffy recounts all the details of Angel's fall to evil, just in case someone started watching the show with this episode. You're caught up. Willow seems pretty happy. We haven't seen Oz in a few episodes, but she's clearly still on a bit of a relationship high and full of hope and optimism, while Buffy's just at an all-time low. So we cut over to school where a young couple is going through an emotional breakup, and the guy's taking it badly, and he pulls out a fucking revolver. Alright, we're getting a little serious out of the gate here. But Buffy was on her way to speak to Giles, and she appears and she drops his ass. The janitor's also here, who I recognize as another character from Deadwood. He plays Sol Star in Deadwood from HBO. I recognize this guy right away. The guy seems confused. He doesn't know why he got so crazy or what's going on, and there's no gun evident anywhere. At long last, the return of Principal Quark. Snyder's here. It's been a while. And Buffy's in his office. He's the one in trouble, of course. And he vows to keep rationally looking at the situation until he figures out how it's her fault.
I wrote down the whole quote. It is
so
good. And I'm going to look at all of the pieces carefully and rationally, and I'm going to keep looking until I know exactly how this is all your fault.
Oh, I miss Principal Quark. But anyway, he's called away as a student has chained himself to the snack machine, apparently again, but not before telling her to stay put and that she stinks of lies.
His hatred for vegans.
Then, a 1955 yearbook falls off the shelf, rather mysteriously and on its own, but she just puts it back. I knew that was going to come back very quickly. That's clearly a plot point. So Willow is still teaching the computer class, and she seems to be killing it, actually. She's doing great. Giles pops by to check on her, and I'm like, what's the legality of her teaching this class long term?
Also, how is she still taking her own courses if she's teaching this class? It's not like she's graduating a semester early. She's only in grade 11. She still has like a year to go.
Maybe they just pulled the most computer literate person in each grade and said, teach your class kind of thing. I'm just assuming it's for her, otherwise she's going to be there all day.
She has a detention list behind her. Did you notice
did she? No.
It stopped right after she made that joke. It literally drifted into focus past her shoulder.
Oh, I must have been typing a note.
It had like 4 names on it.
Xander 3 times. Willow has found a bunch of websites on paganism and magic. Just to remind everybody, we're in the 90s and the internet's a thing.
Miss Calendar had them on her computer. The one that was destroyed?
Well, I mean, to be fair, we only saw the monitor on fire. Maybe the hard drive survived.
Oh, that's true. I mean, what would Angelus know about mid-90s technology?
Yeah, he probably thinks it's a typewriter. So Willow found I think it was a rose quartz necklace thing in Calendar's effects, and she gives it to Giles. And I was like, oh, it's to protect him. Now, this is funny because in the next class, the teacher, I don't think we've seen this guy before, he's talking about economics and the stock market and the shit in 1929. And as we record this, today is what they're calling Orange Monday, as President Idiot has tanked the stock market beyond all fucking reason. And once again, these shows are dropping crazy parallels with our current timeline.
This is the teacher who we saw at the beginning of season 2, who was like, be somber about being back in school. It's this guy. I did recognize him.
I think it's funny, too, with all this stupid tariff stuff going on. Everyone keeps referencing the Ferris Bueller scene where Ben Stein, who is unfortunately a fucking MAGA dickhead, too, he's talking about the Smoot-Hawley Act and all that and how it plunged America into the Depression. I'm like, is anyone paying attention here? Because you should be. Anyway, I digress. Buffy seems to flash back to the 1955 Sunnydale High School where she witnesses a leather jacket student engaged in a flirtation with a teacher. Imagine how scandalous this was in the 50s. And you can tell it's the 50s not just because of the clothing and everything, but because there's a radiation hazard warning sign on the wall in case of nuclear war. Very 50s. And Buffy flashes back to the 90s, and the class titters as the teacher has unknowingly written, "Don't walk away from me, bitch," on the chalkboard as he's furiously trying to erase it. So what's going on here might be coming into focus. I'm reminded of Ray Stantz from the Ghostbusters. The line was something like, "Could even be past memories intruding on present day," or something to that effect. And I'm like, oh, I got a good feeling that that's what's going to happen here. Buffy says, "Something weird is going on." Xander says, "That's the school motto. Whatever they got over the doorway, never mind that." He refers to it as a little domestic disturbance and chalkboard Tourette's. There's a term I've never heard before. I use that as a password, chalkboard Tourette's. And then a monster arm reaches out from his locker and starts to choke the shit out of him, but then it's gone.
I enjoy that it's shot from the point of view that it's shot from, because it's something that I wish I could do sometimes. Like, bring it straight through the screen, just haul him right through the locker. Y'all know that you feel me on that one.
Oh, yeah. My mind was like, am I doing this?
Did we take a look at what was in his locker? This is something
I did take a quick look, but I didn't see anything that stood out to me. What did you find?
So you missed the noose holding up a voodoo doll.
Oh, that I did see, actually. Yeah, that was a little
There was
weird.
also a psychedelic sticker, and I think there might be a postcard in there that was a shout out to an Oasis show, but some things were spelled wrong, so I'm not 100% sure, but the timeline does match up.
Our high school lockers in the mid-90s had this shitty paint job on it. It was very easy to take something and scrape out a design on the paint. So my locker had, at the time, 90s Spawn symbol and all kinds of shit, and people got me to do theirs. Just completely vandalizing it, but it looked cool.
But with style.
That's right. The inside was all Super Nintendo games and posters and stuff for me.
Yeah.
They go to the library, and Willow asks, "What happened? Did Cordelia win another round in the broom closet?" And I'm like, that's the slam burn of the episode right there.
Willow wins. That's it. Episode over.
No, I was accosted by a locker monster. Giles looks up, hopefully, "Loch Ness Monster?" And Xander puts his finger out like, "No."
I think that might be the first time I actually caught what he said, because I never laughed so hard. I don't remember that moment being particularly funny, but I lost it then. It was so good.
He seems so happy that Loch Ness Monster finally.
He totally has gone there, because, he's from England, so he's gone there looking for Nessie at least once.
My mom, who is from Scotland in her youth, she camped out for hours one night at Loch Ness trying to get a glimpse, but no luck. Although she does have stories of seeing other glowing things in graveyards. My mom is filled with old pagan druid magic, I think. Giles and Willow seem delighted by the idea of a paranormal disturbance. They're kind of excited about this one. Xander describes it as "I'm dead as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore," which Giles says, despite the Xander speak, that's a good description of a poltergeist. Xander, I define something accurately? Giles is on fire here too.
Yep.
So Giles is a poltergeist, as we know if you ever watched Supernatural, has some unfinished business, unfinished issues, and there's no way to resolve it. So it lashes out in confusion and anger. So Buffy says, basically a teenager, only dead.
Everybody's really... This one was written by Marty McFly, who was a major front runner through the show writing throughout the series. So she's got all of that quick wit that Joss Whedon's known for. She's really, really good at emulating that.
So they have to work out what issues are upsetting the spirit and settle them, which seems deceptively straightforward for one, so there has to be a catch. So at school at night, janitor George is working away right by the trophy case, mind you, as a teacher is leaving, and it seems normal enough, but they both quickly fall into the bad breakup scenario, so they're like possessed. They're under the influence of this poltergeist. The guy is obsessed and the girl wants out. It starts to get ugly and he won't let her leave, and now he's got a gun in his hand. Giles hears something in his office and he goes to look, and he actually says Jenny's name out loud. Like he's probably seeing her around every corner, and as soon as the spirit thing came up, he sort of latched onto that. But more on that in a bit. And he sees the janitor shoot the teacher, who goes over a railing and falls, down onto the stairs. And Giles, he doesn't hesitate. He fucking tackles the janitor, but the gun disappears in a puff of paranormal smoke. Now, meanwhile, Angel is showing Drusilla the new vampire hangout. Spike is still recovering, but he makes note of the windows, which I assume Angel doesn't mind since he has them in his apartment. No big deal. He tells Spike to take the stairs if he doesn't like it. What a low blow.
Oh my gosh, Angelus is wearing on me. However, did you spot the celebrity? It's a bit of a trick question because the celebrity is the mansion. This is the same mansion as Decker's apartment in Blade Runner. It has also been used as inspiration for sets on Star Trek. It was the movie House on Haunted Hill, that B movie that I'm obsessed with Ali Larter.
Yeah, I watch Blade Runner semi-frequently, and I love his fucking crazy old apartment. So that's interesting. I had no idea about any of that. That's really cool.
Yeah, this is the Ennis house. It was designed by a famous architect, I guess, Frank Lloyd Wright. Yeah, so fun fact. This is the research I was doing earlier when I was talking to you. I was
Very
like, I
cool.
recognize this apartment, and I've never, ever gotten this straight answer. I've never actually taken the time to look it up, so.
Well, if they stay here for more than one episode, I'll be looking at it very carefully next time, that's for sure. Drusilla seems pretty entranced by Angel, and he's all over, and Spike's not liking that too much. So Giles updates the gang. The janitor remembers what happened. I'm like, so did he get arrested or what? Like, he said there were police and stuff. I don't know. The janitor's not there now. So Giles thinks the ghost may be Jenny, but I don't buy that. Yeah, in this case, it's the living that has unresolved issues, mainly Giles, I'd say. So he desperately needs some closure here. So Buffy and Willow argue that the emerging pattern doesn't fit with how Calendar died. But I'm like, Giles isn't going to let this go easily. He does encourage them to ask questions and challenge his authority, but not in this instance where he is clearly right and they are clearly wrong. No, Giles, no.
I love that.
The gang goes to the computer classroom. Willow does some research, finds out about the student who killed his teacher lover after she tried to break it off and then did himself in the music room. That's some pretty real shit right there. And I guess the reason this hasn't come up now before is it's probably because it's the anniversary of the Sadie Hawkins dance combined with the power of the Hellmouth.
Xander at one point asks during the scene, why haven't we heard about this shooting before? I'm like, why would you know about this when there are random deaths every few weeks? Why would this even be a blip on the radar?
I know someone had to ask that question for the sake of the show, but yeah, it's like this is low on the fucking radar of crazy shit that happens here. But I was thinking about the timing of Buffy being in this school, and like I don't know, it's plausible that maybe she came to the school after the Sadie Hawkins dance happened last year and the Hellmouth wasn't at full power, but now all the stars are aligned for this poltergeist to kind of have its power and for this to happen now. That's why it's happening now. At least, I bought that.
Well, she's feeling those feelings strongly enough around the anniversary that it's probably just kind of activating it, because we know that Buffy's got a little bit of a supernatural tuned in radar, kind of like Drusilla has. So maybe
the poltergeist kind of subconsciously sensed that about Buffy, and that's why the book came off the shelf to kind of start, it's kind of like a call for help kind of thing. But anyway, when in doubt, the power of the Hellmouth is making things happen. It's a convenient plot catch-all.
Plot magic.
Exactly. All right, so Buffy tells about the couple and shows them the 1955 yearbook and thinks the ghost must be the violent guy. And who could blame her line of thinking? But that seems too obvious to me. Like, Buffy's obviously, she's got a biased perspective in this because of what she's going with, like, all men are jerks kind of thing. And, well, she's not wrong. She's got a very plot-motivated and personal reason for thinking that the guy is the big problem here. And so Willow's going to find a way to communicate with the ghost. In cafeteria, Cordelia's organizing a boycott. I find that's a funny word to use for a Sadie Hawkins dance. A boycott. A boy boycott? I don't know. But it's totally unfair practice of making the girl pay and do and everything and ask and all that. So Xander says it must have been started by a hairy-leg feminist. Shut the fuck up, Xander. But anyway, suddenly snakes appear. One guy screams his fucking hole off and it just snakes in the spaghetti. But it escalates like super fast, and next thing you know, there are cops and paramedics and fucking people in hazmat suits. It's like the school suddenly got quarantined, you know, like fucking they found an alien or something. But Cordelia actually gets bit on the face by a snake. All right, so here's where it gets really interesting to me. A ranking cop or maybe FBI guy or something who I recognize this guy from Seinfeld. He was the guy with the woman's voice, but he's been in a ton of stuff too. But anyway, he's like a position in authority, and he confers with Principal Snyder, Quark, and they say they're giving the excuse that it was a backed up sewer line, but then Snyder says, we're on the Hellmouth. Sooner or later, people are going to figure that out. And I'm like, I fucking knew it. I knew Snyder knew something. And in fact, he's here to handle that. And he's here like at the behest of the city council and the mayor. So like this goes much deeper than I ever could expect. People in power know about this shit. And I'm like, fucking Quark, I knew he knew something. The plot thickens. I almost turned into Laszlo again. The plot thickens. All right, so later in Buffy's room, Willow tells the gang that communicating and the touchy-feely approach is out. We need to do an exorcism. I do wish she hadn't used the phrase final solution, because that's like a Nazi term. I'm like, who let that be in the dialogue? Anyway, Cordelia quickly gets things back on track. Are you crazy? I saw that movie. Even the priest died.
Cordelia, please, just... I love her so much.
She has quite grown on me, I must say.
Yeah.
Willow outlines the details of the hot spot of paranormal activity and the positions they all have to assume, and a person has to be in different spots and do a chant and light a candle at midnight, and that'll help stop the poltergeist. But not to solve its problems, but rather to ghost trap it or contain it. That's the plan for now. So at the new vampire lair, which I cannot think of anything as Decker's apartment now, Drusilla, she seems to be settling in nicely. She might actually, dig a burrow under the ground and sleep underground, which vampires do. And Angel and Spike are still really bickering, and Angel's attention on Drusilla's. It's getting to Spike, and there is a dangerous glint in Spike's eye right now that I'm kind of here for.
Oh, I'm so over Angelus. Like, just someone stake him. Every word out of his mouth is ableist or gross or just... I can't with this man anymore. Get out of here.
Everything he says is just to fucking start shit. It really is.
Yeah.
Giles bursts out of the library and scares Willow, complete with the high-pitched scary movie scare. You know the one I mean, just like, they even put that in. Yeah. He's trying to contact Jenny Calendar. His distraction is detrimental, as it means he's really distracted and focused on this, so he's not helping the team with the real problem. Willow's doing all the plots, all the problem solving here.
He should have been concerned as to why she was even there, like wearing a scapula and just walking through the school at night. Like, he has no questions.
No, yeah, business as usual, I guess. So the school seems to be drifting to 1955 land. There's some old-timey music. Buffy sees people dancing. Cordelia goes to check the snake bite on her face, and then the evil magic just kind of goes nuts here, and all her face looks like it's all half burnt. Willow's being sucked into a hole in the landing on the stairs. It's all scary. One of the dancers Buffy's watching has a zombie face, so the poltergeist is really ramping up its power here. It's flexing. Giles pulls Willow free, and they fall painfully down the stairs. It is a sort of painful stunt roll down the stairs. Xander wanders into a snake-filled room. That's where he's going to do his part. And what do you call this? It's from Snake-tastic or Snake-alicious or something like that.
Snake-horrific.
Buffy experiences more flashbacks on the hotspot. Giles seems to actually finally accept that this poltergeist can't be Jenny because, as Will says, it's too mean. And he's like, well, yeah, I guess you're right about that. I'm kind of glad to see he came around. It didn't take to the end of the episode to drop that. So they all light their candles in their spots and they begin their chants. And the flames blow out and like a fucking cloud of bees. Whole thing swarms down the hallway. Yeah, not the bees. And they all run outside, and the bees sort of like seal off the school. It's just fucking covered in bees. So anyway, what would you do? Of course, you retreat to Giles for tea.
Did they go to Giles or did they go to Buffy's? Where's Joy?
I assumed it was Giles because he was serving tea. It might have been Buffy's. I wasn't really sure.
It was Buffy's. So where's Joyce?
Well, she's out, free. She's out base jumping off the CN Tower or some shit. She's back to her normal shit. Well, anyway, so at Buffy's, but Giles is pouring tea because that's, he's Giles. Buffy thinks the young man James, who from the 50s, he just wants forgiveness, which she doesn't think he deserves at all. She's really sticking to her guns about, men are all pigs. Again, not wrong. And Cordelia says, okay, over-identify much? As Buffy starts.
Yeah, I read Buffy's thing less as man-hating, but more as, like, hating him for what he did, and he should feel guilty, because that's exactly how she is feeling towards herself. So she's seeing that. Like, that's, I don't really feel like it's more man-bashing, and it's more self-bashing.
Well, I mean, I don't blame her for her man bashing after what, Angel's been putting her through. That's where I was coming at it from. But yeah, 100%. So Buffy finds the Sadie Hawkins poster in her pocket, and she leaves and returns to the school. And the bees just sort of part way and lets her in. And so the gang follows her to school. Okay, so they're worried that when she went in there, she's going to be the one to get shot. But because there's no other person in there for the poltergeist to also bring under its influence, she should be safe until someone else goes in and, has to be cast into the part of the shooter or whatever.
Right.
So Angel, of course, shows up. Apparently bees are no problem for the undead. At this point, I wasn't sure how much was the ghosts talking through them, and I'm like, how much is just Buffy's actual pain? But Angel seems pretty entranced too, so it's obvious pretty quickly that they're all. I was like, are they just talking with themselves for a minute? But then it's obvious that the ghosts have influences.
It does start with Angel. Like, it takes him a second. It's not until he gets in really close that suddenly he's starting to read her lines and speak for her.
So, but the roles are reversed, and Buffy's the one that pulls out the gun and chases Angel. And I'm like, yeah, okay, shoot his ass, which she does.
How did you feel about this role reversal?
I didn't see it coming. It actually gets a little hard to keep track of for a little bit here, but yeah, it was there's the twist I was looking for, I think. So the scene, which is cutting back and forth with the 50s version, plays out. Angel goes over the railing, and then Buffy follows the script, so to speak, and goes to the music room where she's going to shoot herself. She puts on a record of 50s music, which might have been fun and charming then. It just comes across creepy now. Just that it was just the way, the context, I guess. But Angel revives, as expected, but he's still under the spirit's influence, and he goes to Buffy and forgives her. Now I'm playing out the part. So that's sort of like resolving the poltergeist issue, and they have a kiss. And like I said, it's a bit confusing at this point because the roles are reversed and Buffy is James, but they do seem to have broken the cycle here. They just needed a guy who was immortal and couldn't die from a bullet wound. But Angel takes off very quickly. Now they regroup in the library, and Giles finds Buffy in his office. She's feeling the lingering effects of James' sadness and wrestling with her own feelings about forgiveness. Earlier in the episode, Giles says how forgiveness is an act of compassion, and you don't do it because it's deserved, you do it because it's needed. So she's still wrestling with all that. At the vampire house, Angel is washing himself vigorously, and Spike says, when you've drawn blood, you've exfoliated. Angel's feeling all violated. Aw, poor dear.
Yeah.
Heart bleeds.
Yeah, my world's smallest violin playing just for you, man.
Now, I can see Spike he's nearing his breaking point, and as Angel and Drew depart, he finally stands up. He's healing to the point where he's going to be back on his feet. Now, I'm just like rubbing my hands together. I'm all right, there was a point where I wasn't a big fan of Spike because he was the villain, but now I'm like totally behind him. I'm like, yeah, fuck that guy up.
Yeah.
So that's where the episode ends. So in conclusion, prediction way off as usual. I had no idea what to do with this one, but the plot itself, as a monster of the week, was fine. It was an interesting way also to advance the overall plot arcs, like Snyder knowing about the Hellmouth and indeed being at the school to quote-unquote handle it, as well as Buffy and Angel's fucked up feelings and all that. And I like this episode okay, except for the bouts of sudden and explosive screaming, which seemed really intense and jarred me every time. It was a little much. Yeah. But we're building towards the last couple episodes in this season, so I'm very keen to see how this season's going to wrap up. Interestingly, Giles didn't really get any further closure with Jenny Calendar. He accepted the poltergeist wasn't her, but he's clearly still got some stuff to work out. And my last note is, I hope Spike kicks the shit out of Angel by the season's end.
This episode, I do enjoy the concept. I think that it was a very interesting experiment. It was the only episode that actually had a public service announcement beforehand about teen suicide.
Oh,
And
my copy didn't have that. That's interesting.
no, it was on the original aired version. It
Ah,
wasn't, it never made it onto any DVD version or anything. It also had Buffy doing a voiceover about teen suicide awareness at the end. I do, and reading that, because I was looking up fun facts about the show, and reading that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember that. Like, I remember seeing, like, hearing her talk about it, and I kind of forgot about it because I haven't really seen it since. Because
mm-hmm.
watched this when it was aired when I was 10? Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah.
But there was a big continuity error. I can see why they did it because they really wanted the title of this song, I Only Have Eyes for You by the Flamingos, to be the title of the episode. However, this song was released 4 years after these events took place. This song was released in 1959. This episode had events taking place in 1955. It is one of their bigger
Jeez.
oversights.
Terrible. Terrible. No, I can forgive that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, I can see why though, because the song really does fit the vibe and the energy that they were going for. So
Yeah.
I let it slide on the fact that the song actually is a good bop. I enjoy it.
Yeah, like I said, it would have been nice and cheerful in its intended context, but in the context of the this creepy ghost and suicide thing, it just came off as really creepy and off-putting somehow.
Did you ever do a Sadie Hawkins dance?
No, with my high school we had dances, but there was very rarely any sort of it was just sort of show up and dance and listen to music. There wasn't really too many themes. We definitely didn't do a Sadie. I think that's more of an American thing too. But no, we never really did anything like that.
A hairy-legged American feminist started the Sadie Hawkins movement, I guess.
Shut the fuck up, Xander.